Hello everyone, welcome to e-learning. So today we're going to be doing some history. It's for grade 6 learners and the topic is democracy and citizenship. This is basically the section that you are going to be doing in term 3. Right, so you're going to ask yourself, what is democracy? Now, democracy is basically a, a system of government in which people choose their leaders by voting for them in an election. Now, the democracy requires basically the government and the people to follow the rules. So it's not just people that are following rules, the government follows rules as well. And this is found in the Constitution. Now, every citizen in the country has a right to vote and they are free. All citizens that are over 18 years old can vote. Now, it is very important that you must respect the rights of others and obey the laws of the country. Now, just like how you have classroom rules, now the classroom rules in a class teach children to learn to obey rules. So when they are 18 years old and they go out into the world, because they are accustomed to obeying rules, it is easier to follow the rules of the country. So also the government cannot do what they feel like. They also have to follow a set of rules. Now, in 1994, South Africa had its first democratic elections. This is where all citizens could vote. Now, prior to 1994, only the white citizens could vote, and the non-white Africans consisted of the African people, the Indian people, and colored people, and they were basically oppressed and they could not vote. But in 1994, Nelson Mandela worked with F.W. de Klerk and they brought about democracy in South Africa. And in 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected the first democratic president of South Africa. Now, you want to know basically what is a political party and how does voting occur. Now, in a democracy, citizens are free to come together to form a political party. Now, a political party is basically an organization of citizens who believe that the country should be governed in a certain way. Now, during an election, the members in the political party canvass. Now, canvass basically means that they go around and they tell people why, they give people reasons why that these people should vote for them, and they tell them what they're going to do for the country. So when the people hear this, they decide, well, okay, I believe you, that is why I am going to vote for you. So when you are over 18 years old, you are considered an adult, and that is when you can vote. Now you have to go to register to vote before you can actually vote, and you can do this online. The elections are basically held every 5 years. Now we're going to move on to what happens after voting. So the country's leaders are elected in a free and fair election, and all the citizens that vote are called active citizens. So that means that they are actively involved as to who is governing their country. Now, it's a very important part of democracy that every person's vote is kept a secret, and this is called a secret ballot. Now, when you vote in election, it's important not to tell people who you are voting for, because sometimes people will influence you not to vote for a party that you believe in, and this can influence you not to do what you feel like doing. Now, in a democracy where the party that has the most votes basically wins the election. Now, after the elections, the votes are counted. the party with the most votes wins and they become the ruling party. And the leader of that party becomes the new president of South Africa. Now, the president then appoints ministers from the ruling party to lead different parts of the government. Like, for example, you have the Minister of Education, they are responsible for schools. You have the Minister for Health, then they're responsible of the medical facilities and the hospitals. You have the Minister for Safety, they're responsible for the police department and etc. Now, all the parties that vote can send a certain number to the parliament, where they become members of the parliament. Now, the parliament basically makes up the laws of the country. The number of people in the parliament depends on the number of votes that they received when people voted for them. Now, the other parties that had fewer votes basically make up the opposition party. And it's important to have an opposition party because they prevent the ruling party from doing whatever they feel like, and they make sure that the ruling party listens to other people before they make laws. Now you're going to ask yourself, what is the purpose of a constitution? Now, before you ask yourself that, you must understand what a constitution is. Now, a constitution is basically a collection of laws that protect the rights of individuals. It also states how a country should be run. Now, after the elections in 1994, it took 2 years to draw up South Africa's constitution, and in 1996, the constitution was passed, and it was the most powerful law in the country. The police, the army, the government all obey the Constitution. So, what do you think the Constitution does? Well, it describes how the government functions, how it was formed, how elections take place, and what makes up the laws. It outlines the power that the government has. It makes sure that the rights of the citizens are protected. It sets out how the government will be accountable for the people who are elected. Now, most of these rights and freedoms are contained in part in the Constitution in the Bill of Rights. The government may not pass any laws or acts in any way that goes against the rights of citizens. Now, it describes the systems of the court, and courts are independent and they obey the laws of the Constitution itself. So when somebody in the government does not obey the law, then they can go to the court and the court can deal with them appropriately. And obviously, they must provide evidence to support. Before you go and accuse somebody of something, you must always provide evidence. Now, people in the parliament are called members of parliament or MPs. Now, political parties elect MPs that the people of South Africa voted into power. Now, South Africa became a parliament and it consisted of two parts. You get the National Assembly that has about 400 members and they're elected every 5 years. And they discuss the vote for and the making of the laws of the country. Now, the second part is the National Council of Provinces. It consists of 90 people, and in each province, 10 people are represented from there. And the role of the parliament is basically to help write the laws that affect that province, because you must know every province is different. Now, just a simple definition of the role of the parliament. It is a part of the government that makes up the country's laws. There's 3 branches. You get the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Now, the function of the legislator is to make up the laws, and the members are the personnel that make it up are members of the parliament. In the executive, their function is to enforce and implement the law, and the personnel that makes up the executive is the ministers. And lastly, we have the judiciary. They interpret the laws and are made up of judges. Then we have the Constitutional Court. This is the highest court in the whole country. Now, they function is for justice and equality under the law. The function of the Constitutional Court and information about it is basically it was established in 1994 to protect the Constitution. It makes up the rules of the Constitution. They make sure that the rules of the Constitution are obeyed and everyone's rights are protected. They make decisions about people when they disagree with the Constitution. It basically made up of 11 judges and it's headed by the Chief Justice. And they meet to discuss important cases. Now, if you do not agree with a decision made in another court, then they take a vote, and the votes that are the highest, then the decision is accepted. Now, the justice system consists of 4 different levels. The highest is the Constitutional Court, and you get the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land on all matters. And we have the high courts. There's basically 10 in South Africa, and the Magistrates Court. The Magistrates Court is the first court you go for. If anything happens in the Magistrates Court and you don't agree with it, then you go to the High Court. If you don't if you're not happy with the High Court's decision, you make an appeal and you go to the Supreme Court. Okay, one of the most important rights that the Constitution guarantees is that all people are equal before the law. This means that the court will judge you the same no matter who you are or where you come from. Even the president or the richest person of the country has to obey the rules of the court, and they are regarded as an ordinary person if they had to go to